What is up, Truth and Transparency? Tuesday night follow-up, Sunset Secrets, episode 1. This is to just recap, answer any questions that you guys might have. Again, hello everybody. Welcome to the live follow-up. I do apologize for the delay. I was on the phone. Jamie Brown's hearing got continued, which is a very rare thing with something like this. So I'm trying to see what happened and see it's unavailable for the calendar, so I can't see anything. But again, just made aware that 9:20, Sheldon's all set with his, but Jamie Brown is now not on the docket. So, sorry for my delay. Again, hi to everybody. What's up? The new me, Jeremiah, Boston, Midge. I got New Orleans lady re-upping her membership. I see you, girl. Thank you for that. And let's see. Joanne came in here bombing. Hey, Lana, have seen you with AD. I have some. Please, email me. You are cute, but my pit bull, 5'9", 385 pounds, walks on his back legs most of the time, is more my taste. The New Orleans lady says, Joanne, what are you talking about? 7, and I have some sense humored with a 132 IQ. We don't allow drug users here. I think you are on the wrong channel. Oh my God. Lord bless us. Oh, I don't know what went on there in chat, but I'm laughing about it. Let's see. Episode 1 breakdown. Breakdown. Let's see. We're going to go right to... Where do I go? Right here. So I can go over some points that I have that I want to make known. And then answer your questions. So... Oh, this is when I had to show... and play the last bit. Okay, right here. All right. What did we miss? I was reading chat. I guess there was, chat. I just stayed quiet because New Orleans lady was handling it just fine. So, yeah. But thank you again. Member. So this picture right here, when you guys are hearing it, but this picture right here, that is everybody that would have been dispatched from Aliquippa Police Department that night. And that does not match the sign-in with Galletti being there. So that's what this shows when you would have been watching it and to see this. And that little dispatch there, DISP 234147, 11:41 and 47 seconds. And then their arrival is 23:42 and 10 seconds. But that's what that is. No Galletti. Okay. And so you got Trello there. You got Bits. Lane gets there. Now we're going to talk about this. Look at that is 12:14. Remember Lane? He switched his time to say 12:06. Well, he wasn't dispatched until 12:14 a.m. But all of a sudden, he's putting down on this piece of paper that he's there inside the tape at the crime scene at 12:06. But his vehicle and his dispatch is at 12:14 a.m. How is that possible? It's not. So that's what that is. Now go ahead. What questions do you guys have for me, more or less? If something that, didn't make sense, something that if it's coming up, I'll, say that, but, I resent it when one half-wits like you don't know me makes me look bad just to make yourself feel better. We're not making anybody feel bad. I was just reading your comments, and you're talking about a pit bull that weighs 385 pounds. So, Boston, I've been praying for you. I just hope you get better really quick. Yes. Yeah, I listened to Boston on the phone and okay, again, the big thing to remember here is just to hit home on this. Episode 2 is fire, by the way. I was just, being a perfectionist today and looking at a couple of different things. But, so your 911 caller, he is saying that he was working at the Pittsburgh airport. Okay, Pittsburgh airport. And he normally just, works for a shift, but on Fridays, to make the extra money, he pulls a double. During COVID, pulls this double. Did they go and get any information from the Pittsburgh airport to see him on surveillance? No. Is there anything to prove that he was there? And did they use it in court? No. So no time card. I mean, we're just going off of Mr. Richardson saying that's where he was coming from. And in court, during Sheldon's trial, did they ever bring up the fact that the 911 caller, it traced back to Baden, Harmony Road? Did that ever come up? No. How is that possible? Shitty counsel. So your 911 caller is leaving Pittsburgh Airport, coming home, where he lives only part-time, though, because the address that he gives law enforcement off of his ID is his New York address. So, he says that he's coming home. He gets off 51, and the way you're getting off is he'll be on like the right side. So he's coming, he gets off, so then he has to turn left, and he goes underneath like the 51, and then like right there on the corner is going to be Two Cousins. So right before Two Cousins is where you're going to be making a left to then go, because Cochran is just a small strip, and then it becomes I'll show you guys. Actually, I can show this. It becomes Keel.
House,
Yeah.
I thought this was one of them,
Yeah.
They just going up the hill. But I mean, my other guy was my neighbor. I knew him,
Mm-hmm.
And on Friday, I come up later, and I wasn't surprised to see somebody walking. Perhaps I was surprised to see somebody laying down.
Okay.
And my first thought was house,
Yeah.
I thought this was one of them,
Yeah.
They just going up the hill. But I mean, my other guy was my neighbor. I knew him.
So this is where the ping was for where it traced back the 911 call. That's what this route would be, to be able to, like, that's the distance that we're headed over to be where Keel Street is. It's at least like a 10, 12 minute drive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously you're driving this road pretty often at the same time every night. Have you ever seen anybody else consistently other than Bill?
No, but there's seasonally in the summer, it's not uncommon to see somebody walking up and down this hill around.
This is the Aliquippa Ambridge Bridge. So And then this is 51. Okay.
I'm a first shift
So that was 51. And
guy, but
what this will show here is where the yellow is. That's you driving 51.
on Fridays I work.
Oh, I just missed it. Damn it. It's so hard to catch it. And then this is going up the hill. Okay. So, yeah. So he would have had to get off, go left, and then right there is where they say that the two cousins camera catches him. This alleged minivan at 11:37 and 37 seconds. He makes his left. He goes up Keel Street, and then boom, he's coming right here, up right here. This is Keel Street, and that's where the body is. So this 911 caller, again, in court, never was talked about the fact that no proof that he even worked that night at the airport. His son it takes 8 minutes without red lights. There you go. His son has the same exact name as him, and he works at the airport. They have a 25-year, 30-year gap. I think one's 32, one's 63, something like that. And so they both work at the Pittsburgh airport. There was nothing put in, no investigation into was he being truthful, where he was coming from. And he says he gets out of the vehicle, and within 30 seconds of getting out of his van, he calls 911. You have Brandon Wexler that doesn't get out of the vehicle, and he thinks that there was a shooter in the area. But you have the 911 caller who gets out of the car, stands over the body, and he thinks that he was hit by a car. That's just not possible. That's impossible. Unless you are blind. So the big important thing with this case so far at this point is I'm really hitting home on the fact of all the timestamps, because it's everything. So because that's the only thing that's pinning Sheldon to this case, there's no eyewitness, there's no DNA, there's no gunpowder on his hands or anything like that. There is some trace that comes back from the steering wheel and being in that vehicle. Well, Alex Bitts moved his vehicle, just like Alex Bitts moved the 911 caller's vehicle. And I think that touches home a lot more in episodes 2 and 3. So, but everything that you're hearing about in 1 is to make sure that you have what the meat and potatoes are of what they're saying happened, which is they're saying that the body, there was no signs that this body was moved or staged. Nothing. I disagree completely. They're saying that the conditions, that it was on and off rain, that's gonna play big into what goes on here in episode 2 and 3, because the ground becomes wet, and when the ground becomes wet, it becomes dark pavement versus a light color pavement. When anything gets wet, it gets darker. But here it is that Joe Richardson calls 911. You guys heard the 911. It's a very strange 911, to the point that I made some comments, if you've ever seen any of my live little breakdowns, that it wasn't Joe Richardson that said where he was located at on Keel Street. It was like he already knew it. He's like, oh, you're at the bend, you're at the sharp bend. Keel Street, you go up the hill. So why didn't they think that it could have been at the top of Keel Street? If you listen to that 911 call, it's not Joe Richardson that says where he's located, where that body's at. It's a strange, very strange 911 call. 1 minute and 22 seconds. Then it gets dispatched out. And again, the big things that you want to take away from, this episode are just these timestamps. So Brandon Wexler would have already passed the body. So they say that he gets his, Preston and Gene, father and son. Oh my God, there's blood, there's a body. We got to go back down there. We got to call 911. You have 3 people, Preston, Gene, and Brandon. They all have cell phones, all of them. Not a single one of them calls 911. So let's say that Brandon is scared. It's dark. But he says that he thinks that the shooter still might be in the area. What? And you're going to see down the road his reasoning of why he thinks that and says that. But you have 3 people, they all have cell phones, and no one calls 911. The trooper asks, hey, how long do you think it took you to, when you saw the body, to come back to the body? I couldn't have taken more than 2 minutes. Like, I went up the hill, told my friends, got out of my vehicle, went inside, got them. They were already on the porch, and then we just got in the vehicle and came right back down. So, like, 2 minutes from seeing, the body. Well, Joe Richardson is turning left and seen on Two Cousins camera at 11:37. We know the 911 call happens at 11:39ish, almost 11:41. If Brandon Wexler is saying that he literally just passed that body, okay, think about this. He just passes the body and has to get his friends to come back, and this all happens within 2 minutes. The reason that you don't see Brandon Wexler on any cameras is because I'm going to pull up, I did a live, or just like a 5-second or 5-minute little clip about this area. Let me see if I can pull this up, because I want to show you where Brandon got off and why he wasn't on any cameras. So, again, hopefully this is just helping, to understand the area more. So let's see if I can do that. All right, I'm loading it up now. Okay. Ooh, sorry. What's this area called?
Logs.
Locks?
Log.
Street for a possible somebody hit by a car, hit and run. Because that's how the guy... This is, okay, so this is 51. This is 51. This is going to be the way that Brandon was driving, okay? That's all fireworks stuff over there. A rocket, okay. Okay. Belong to the Unisys. Oh, so you could like pull. So.
I doubt it because you can't go in there. That's private property.
That's private property. Here we go. So. Okay, here we go. Check this out.
Officer Bitts is seen. So, but why didn't he go straight and turn instead of turning?
I know. This is what he okay, so what I'm going to show you guys right here. For 51, there's two options here. Now, you're going to see this become a bigger part of it in episode 2. But this is 51, so what Brandon does, because I think I make the drive twice, so I could show it. Let me see, I do it like I drive like around. It might be on the next one. He's seen from like up this area. You can go, we're going to show that, but this is what he's seen. Because there's cameras that have it. Okay. So Officer Bitts is up in this area because right here. Okay, so. I'll let it go even a little further. Your two cousins camera catches him like that. Two cousins camera, which is right there. Two cousins, they pick up his car coming right like that. I'll go a little further down here, and then this is what he does. I want to back up. He's seen. Okay, right here. This split. If you continue to go straight, then you're just going to go over where Franklin Avenue is, and then right off there on the right is going to be the Keel Street, little dip off. Like up this area. You can go, we're going to... So if he would have been on 51, meaning Bits, where he was coming from, he should have went straight as well if he was responding to this, call. The quickest way to, Keel Street is to continue on going straight. Well, Officer Bitts is found show that, but this is on camera. Because there's cameras that have it. This does not come up in court. Okay. What comes up in court is up in this area because right here, two cousins camera catches him like that. Two cousins camera, which is right there. So that's the store. But if you're waiting over here and you're standing off on that edge, you can see all the way across and you have a clear view of Keel Street. It's insane. And I do a live, I think that I stand out there and I show it. They pick up his car coming down here. Two cousins camera now picks it up. So everybody was only paying attention to the cars on Franklin. I paid attention to this street, this back street as well. And what do I see? And Officer Bitts is seen. No sirens on, no nothing. This is a one-way street. Okay, one-way street. He stops here at the one-way. Okay, and he proceeds to turn left. And it was only one way. Turning. Turns left on a one-way without sirens on. Okay. Meanwhile, he could have just come up to this point, made his left. Because right there's the police station. It's legal, but it's fine. He didn't do it. He turned up there without sirens on and then made a quick left, then onto Franklin. This is Franklin right here. He will then be seen. He's seen on all the cameras. Okay. So here we are. Now, mind you, he's a police officer. He could have just went through the light and turned. But he turned because you could see it on the camera. You could see goes down the one way, the opposite way. No sirens on. Oh, I guess I was in the wrong way.
And,
And then he's seen
right here. Just like all
camera there. He's seen that
right here. Right there. He's seen like that's the view. So you see the police officer. Okay, now right where we're going to stop right here. Right there. You can see that's 51. Okay. When you're coming from the opposite way, like Richardson was, he's coming the opposite way. So he's coming this way. And so when he gets off, he has to go underneath that little, bridge. And then there's like a stop sign there, or is it a stop sign, or just might have to like stop because if you're turning left. But that's where the Two Cousins camera is picking up people that would be right here where I turn. This is Cochran.
makes a right and comes up here.
So right here, okay. That is that's a good view. So right here, that first street right there, that's going to be Cochran. That's only like, the size of like a football field or two before it turns into, Keel. Maybe it's, I don't know. Maybe it's like 500 feet. It's very short. So everybody that's seen on that camera, this would be this little street. This is the intersection that they're talking about when you're going to hear, the Two Cousins camera at Cochran and Franklin. That's this. And at first it really confuses a lot of people because you're not realizing that Keel Street is basically, Cochran Street is basically Keel Street. So, because it's only Cochran just for like a small strip.
Right, it comes up here again. No sirens on.
Again, so that's the way that Officer Bitts went. And how can I prove that? Because his vehicle is seen coming down super duper slow.
First reporting officer.
So now this would be the path that you're going up. So I would have been seen 2 times on one of those cameras in front of, Two Cousins camera or Two Cousins. And then I would have been seen on all those cameras, the front one and the side one. So, and then right here, look off here to your left. And this is where the exit is. So like right here, right there, that little street. That's when, you would have stayed on 51, you would have dipped off right there. And then you would have just made a left and been right here. And this is what they're trying to say is why Wexler wasn't seen on the cameras of Two Cousins. You're going to hear this, if you've been following along. But, Brandon Wexler's vehicle is never seen on Two Cousins camera going up the hill. And that's problematic because of his interview. His interview, he's talking about Franklin Avenue. And he's talking about that there's cars always parked there and people are always, and he saw people out there. Well, how are you able to see all that if you got off right here? You're not able to see Franklin Avenue like that. You make your left, you don't see anybody down on Franklin Avenue. But this is...
Makes a stop here.
So that's right where you would have came on and made a left. Right here, this is where cars are parked a lot because there are some houses right there. Again, this is driving up Keel. And then boom.
Right there.
Right there.
Right there.
There's the box.
So, there you go. So the timing of this is really, really important on everything because that's what's tying Sheldon to this murder. is this murder has to happen between such a small window because you see the case against him is that this is his SUV and it's seen on the two cousins camera at 11:35 and 50 seconds. So, therefore, now let's go to what I'm going to put on paper for you guys in real time here. Is Brandon Wexler is seen when they do all of this in court. They say at 11:36, he's at the top of Keel Street, 319 camera. Okay. And it's going to take you at least like a minute to get up there. So that means if you back him up, it's 11:35. Okay. And if you back him up a minute, he's going to be at 11:35 at the crime scene. Okay. He then says that it took him, I was back down to that body within 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes. Like, he sees the body right here. He doesn't stop. He doesn't call 911. He wants to talk about how he rolled up his windows or something like that. It was very confusing, right? But he says that he doesn't think the guy was hit by a car. He thinks there's an active shooter or something. That he got out of there because there could have been an active shooter. But yet the 911 caller who stands over the body says that he got hit by a car. And there's shell casings right there. Not to mention the wounds that are just so visible, like. And the 911 caller says, so Joe Richardson, he's coming up, well, at 11:37 and, something like 13 seconds is when he's turning to come up Keel Street. And that means he would have got to the body at, about 11:38. And then he said, I got out of my van, and within 30 seconds of getting out of my van, I called the police. And then they went ahead and, I have it as 11:39 to like 11:41 in like 2 seconds, okay? So the thing that doesn't add up is Brandon Wexler, if he's on top of Keel at 11:36, that means he has to be at the bottom of it at 11:35. That means you would have been right there when Sheldon was there. You would have been passing Sheldon, if in fact you were really there at 11:36. Do I think so? Absolutely not. Because the clock or the surveillance, when they actually look at it, it says 12:04 a.m. that Brandon Wexler is seen at the top. And this is all going to come out, but let's just go ahead and let's even go with their time frame. It's impossible for you not to consider Brandon Wexler a suspect due to the fact that he would have been at the crime scene while the crime was committed. Because you can put him on a camera at 11:36 on top of Keel Street. You can put Sheldon at the bottom of Keel Street, right there at the corner of Franklin and Cochran, which is Keel. He's on the camera at 11:35 and 50 seconds. So if you back both of these people up, what are they going to do? They're going to be right at the same place at the same time. It's impossible for them not to cross paths. If and in fact, that's the time that we know for sure. Okay, we know for sure because Sheldon's seen on the two cousins camera, which isn't messed up. Okay, the 319 Keel Street camera, now that one's messed up because they said, and it's going to come out in trial, that camera was off. The camera was off. What do you mean it was off? Well, yeah, it was off 43 minutes, the owner said. But then when we got there, he had changed the time back so that it was like accurate. What? How would he have known that it was off before he would have ever looked at it? So if you're going to go to his house, hey, just wondering, I noticed that you have a camera here. Can we possibly look at your camera during this time to this time? mean, you just, called somebody up on the phone and said, hey, did you go to the house? Did you call? Well, we're going to get into all that. But the reason that it's so important with this case on this timeline and the small window that it is to frame Sheldon, it has to do with this murder had to happen before 11:35 and 50 seconds because Sheldon has already left the area. He's gone. So we have to make it so that this happened at that time, right? Before that. And if you take Joe Richardson and now the question mark surrounding, well, was that really Joe Richardson at 11:37, 13 seconds? Was that really his van being seen? Because when the 911 call is made from Joe Richardson's phone, he's in Baden. And that's like she just said, 8-minute drive with catching no red lights. 8-minute drive. I'm telling you, it's like 10 to 12 minutes. And it traced, the call traced back to Harmony Road. This wasn't like, this is the police. Trace, locate. How does that not come up in court? Your 911 caller is not at the body? Your 911 caller thought the guy got hit by a car. But Brandon Wexler says that the shooter's still in the area. But wait, you didn't get out of the vehicle? How do you know he was shot? How'd you know he was shot? Well, I just assumed. That's what he says. I just assumed. What? Did you see it? Could you see it from like being in your car? No. I just saw the blood. I knew it was bad and I got out of there because I thought the shooter could still be in the area. Right. Ooh. So, any questions about that? Again, what's tying Sheldon to the crime? And it's going to be surveillance. Like, it's almost just like, well, how could he not? He's seen driving away, then he's seen here, it's just like, okay, well, don't you think that's kind of weird? And then he goes home and sleeps with a murder weapon. Sounds like a brilliant plan. He's not speeding, we're going to get into all that, but the thing that I really wanted you guys to take away from, hopefully in episode 1, was these stories. You also have it, and right here, the main thing to point out is you have when okay, right there. Now, Gene and his son Preston are out on the porch, right? And they had just got back from Sharon, PA. You heard all that. His wife must eat dinner late, whatever. But he's saying this had to be around like midnight, 10 to midnight, around midnight, that him and his son are out on the porch. And that's when they hear, right here, okay, so right there, about 10 minutes later after they hear the shots, Brandon, comes, he wants to say flying up the road, gets out of his vehicle and says this. But that would have been 10 minutes after hearing the shots. So if Sheldon killed Pugh at 11, they say that they think that this homicide happened 11:30, 11:33, let's say. If you take 10 minutes after hearing those gunshots at 11:30 to 11:33, if you take 10 minutes, that wouldn't put Wexler there until 11:40, 11:43. Versus if you hear those gunshots and the way that the timeline is right now, Wexler would be literally arriving a minute or two after hearing those gunshots. And in his son's report and in his report, no, it was like 10 minutes. Where he's getting the 2 minutes confused in is because they were back down to the body within 2 minutes of like. But it's very interesting to hear. He's like, well, no, I don't really want to say 2 minutes because it wasn't 2 minutes. It was like 10. So he wants to make sure that's known. Same with his son. Like 10 minutes goes by after hearing those shots. And then Brandon's there. Well, that's impossible based on the timeline that the state provided. Because Brandon is at the top of the hill at 11:36 because that's the time frame that they nailed down with, and they made that 319 Keel Street or 319, Keel Street camera have him there at. He's at the top. And at the top of the hill is right by where Gene and Preston live. He makes a right there, and their house is right there on the left. Like 4 houses down. And then he gets out of his car. He tells them, oh, there's blood, there's body. We got to call 911. But nobody calls 911. They just get in the car and they go back down. Oh, let's just go check it out first. Make sure that, So they get down there, and then they said that when they were there, the van was already there. And, said that 911 had already been called. Well, 911, that's impossible. The 911 caller was on the phone with them until past 11:41. So again, if you really want to look at all these alleged timestamps, it's just impossible. This is impossible. Because if you go at that Brandon Wexler arrives 10 minutes after the gunshots, Sheldon was way long gone. Way long gone. Because that would mean that the shots happen at 11:26. Or this doesn't add up. That means what? Did you think that Sheldon passed the body? And Sheldon saw a dead body? But you just can't have it both ways. You're basically saying that this homicide happened at, right before, obviously, because Sheldon's seen on the camera of 2 cousins at 11:35 and 50 seconds. So if you back him up to where that spot would have been, it's like less than a minute going backwards. Get out of the vehicle. If you shoot somebody and then you get into your, how long do you think that's going to take? But it would have been like 10 minutes after that. So that means that Brandon Wexler should be arriving like around 11:43. But he gets there at like 11:37. Not even. And then they're back down at the body, they say, which is going to be great in episode 2 when you see how it's just physically not possible. And it's proven with science. It was raining that night, but it didn't start raining until later on. And the ground proves it. And if Brandon Wexler's vehicle was there as early as the 911 caller and as early as the police officers, then underneath Brandon Wexler's vehicle, it should be dry, just like the other vehicles. And it's not. It's wet. So, but episode 1 is really big on procedure. They didn't do a damn thing right. What were these police officers doing? Alex Bitts is at the body. He waits till Charlo gets there. Then they go ahead and call in a DOA. I mean, why? You wait 2 minutes to do that. Also, they know that they're not allowed to do anything. They have to wait till PSP gets there. So they knew that. They knew that it would take X amount of time until PSP got there. So anybody that doesn't think that calling it a premature homicide, because we can't do anything. And it's proven fact that they didn't do anything because there's not one report written up by any of those officers. Not a single report. Can you imagine that? I'm just going to fill you in. I'm just going to brief you. You've had these witnesses here. Oh yeah, they've all been just hanging out together for 2 hours. What? Yeah, since basically the crime, they've all been there. They weren't separated, and they sure as shit weren't interviewed. But they were all just talking about it. I mean, you hear Joe Richardson say, yeah, the guy told me what he did. He came down, he did this. Like, none of that's supposed to happen. What time did it rain? Was it dry under the body? Yes, it was dry under the body. It was all dry because underneath the body it was dry. Underneath whatever vehicle was there, again, we're going to just go with it, Joe Richardson's van. Underneath the cop cars it was dry. Underneath Joe Richardson's van it was dry. But underneath Brandon Wexler's vehicle, it was wet. And everybody has said that, yes, that Brandon Wexler had come, they came back down. So, and just within minutes. And if it's dry underneath the cop cars, Brandon Wexler was back down there with Gene and Preston before the cops were. So if you can tell that it is dry underneath, and I put it in here for a reason, so I'll show you. Let's go and take a look at this one photo here. I did a nice little Okay. Right there. Let me pull it up and close this out. You can see, and there's actually even a better photo, but you can see underneath this cop car, it's dry.
I had to call him.
And right there. So see that white, that is not what that is right there. That is a vehicle that was the van, allegedly, whatever vehicle that was, that's it being dry underneath. And then it gets, pulled away. So it's dry underneath, just like it was dry underneath the cop car. This gets into more depth down the road in the other episodes, but again, listen to episode 1 to really hit home on what this timeline they want to center all of this around. And it's around a 911 caller that thinks Tyreek was hit by a car. But the guy that passes the body before the 911 call thinks that there's an active shooter still in the area and doesn't get out of the vehicle, but just thinks that the guy was shot but doesn't really know because he didn't get out. But the 911 call traced not back to Keel Street, it traced back to Harmony Road in Baden. When you add up all of these things, it's just like, what? Well, who would ever say that they got out of there because they thought that the shooter was still there? Who would ever say that? Unless you saw him get shot. Or why wouldn't it be that, I didn't know what was going on. I got out of there, but I don't know if the shooter was still in the area. What? Like, that's just where somebody that's told to say something fucks up so bad. That's what that is. And I'm going to prove it. But this is just wild. And it fucking pisses me off. But too many discrepancies not to question, and too many discrepancies not to, like, hammer this in the courtroom. Do you think that this was shown? Do you think that, pointing this out and questioning people, do you think this happened in the courtroom? Because it didn't. This is as ineffective as you can fucking get. So, but yeah, if you haven't heard, episode 1, then all of what I'm saying to you is just not going to make any sense. And I think that it would have been imperative for that jury, who, not a black person on it, okay? They don't live in Quip. They definitely don't live there. I think that the jury should have all gotten in vehicles like they did with the O.J. Simpson case and went and seen this area. Drive around it. Take a look. So, as far as he was concerned, he still could have been alive and they shouldn't have left the scene. Well, as far as he's concerned, he doesn't know if he's dead. So why aren't you immediately calling 911? I mean, and if you think that there's a shooter there, then why are you going to get your buddies only to bring them back to fucking open season fire range? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. And I think it's like when Joe Richardson's giving his story of a lifetime over here and saying, I mean, I don't know why he drove up. Maybe he was scared of the dark. He says maybe he's scared of the dark. He needed another set of eyes. That's what he says in his interview. And Brandon Wexler went to boot camp. He is he's a very interesting person, and that comes up down the road. But this is somebody that, I don't know if he ended up becoming a Marine or not, but wanted to be a Marine, was doing everything possible to become a Marine. And Preston was his little cheerleader, cheering him on, and they were writing each other. I mean, I have Preston's diaries. Sure do. Something else that's going to come up is, remember, guys, this is COVID time. COVID. Cells have lights on their phones, and crazy he even left the scene. Well, if you actually pull up his past, he has been cited before for leaving the scene of an accident before. Brandon has. So this wouldn't be, I mean, Brandon picked up at the store that he was at before he came over here, he was picking up beer. So I don't know if maybe Brandon was smoking weed or drinking or something like that and was like, oh my God, like I can't call because I'm intoxicated. Who knows? Something like this will sober you right up, though. There could have been numerous reasons, but you would think that when you got to the top of the hill and you said this to people and they all have cell phones and no one thinks to call 911 because you're going to be going back down there, especially if you're afraid. Well, shouldn't you get the cops on it? Like maybe they can meet you then there. Well, let's go check it out first. Let's see what's going on. Okay. But I think it'd be enough for me if I was sitting on that jury and you're going to tell me, wait a second, the 911 caller traced back to Baden? No wonder why he thinks that the guy got hit by a car, because he has no fucking clue. Which that to me would make sense. And then right there, I question, okay. But once again, that has to be brought up in court. And it wasn't. And it just blows my mind. I mean, we're talking about the police tracing, like, your call. He had his phone number because he says it back to him at the end of the 911 call. Trace locate 1140 Harmony Road. It's pretty exact to me. Well, because it pinged off of this tower. Okay, well, it's, again, during COVID. So you're going to say, oh, that can't be right. Why can't it be right?
Well, because this is where he was. He was, calling in the 911 call. Oh, was he? Okay. But then this is the van that gets moved, so it wouldn't be taken any pictures of the crime scene. That's why this was moved. Why are you moving a vehicle that's inside the crime scene? You're not supposed to do that. Why would you? There is no fucking reason for that. And it's not reported. Nobody gives an explanation of why they moved it. It's not in one single report. Oh, I moved this van because it was leaking oil and it was going to contaminate the crime scene, so I had to move it. It was spilling oil. Why would you move a vehicle? And this is the same officer, Officer Bitts, Alco police officer, who gets on the stand and says, that was me, I moved it. Oh, and then what did you do a couple hours after that? I moved Sheldon's car too. What? So when it comes back that it's positive for gunpowder residue in Sheldon's vehicle, well, I don't know, a cop just fucking got in it. And he just was in Joe Richardson's van. So if I'm on the jury and I'm sitting there and I'm hearing this, I would throw everything out that was in that vehicle. They say there was a bunch of surveillance playing, and you can't see this big orange blanket was never placed in Sheldon's vehicle to be pulled away. And nobody could testify to ever putting a blanket in there, which is to preserve evidence. Again, I have no idea how the car was not suppressed. No clue how that was even allowed to be in. But even if it wasn't, how does a jury person sit there and say, yeah, that had to be Sheldon. That has to be from Sheldon. Why? Sheldon was the last person to drive that car. And in fact, after the police officer got in it and drove it for a little bit, the car broke down. Do you think that was reported anywhere? Nope. The car broke down on the way to the barracks. What? So yeah, then they had to call a tow truck driver from Junax. Again, this is all going to be coming up down the road. So, wait. Not only was Sheldon not the last person to drive that vehicle, but now you got a cop, and now you have a tow truck driver that could have possibly gotten in that car to do something? Like putting a car in neutral. You know what mechanics do? They work with brakes. You know what brakes are? Brakes work with the dust. The same type, that would test positive for gunpowder residue. Do we have nothing but idiots on this juror? On this, what the? Or is actually the jury people smart, but the defense wanted to ask questions like, did you pull Sheldon over for speeding that night? No. So he didn't break any laws? No. So you've seen all the surveillance cameras, and Sheldon's never once seen breaking any laws? No. Is he speeding? No. So you had no reason to pull over my client? No, and I didn't pull over your client. So he just calmly drives down, going the speed limit, and then they show the pictures of him getting out of the vehicle and walking into the house. And he's just walking, not rushing, not, frantic or anything. Okay, no more further questions. What? Wow, you didn't look at a fucking report. Woo! Or then it's like, what else happened in court that I thought was hilarious? Who instructed you to do that? Then they would give an answer. And then it's like, okay, so should this question be, should I be asking you, or should this be directed to somebody else? Stuff like that. Stupid shit. But yeah. It's going to be fire here. And then there at the end, the last thing I'm going to talk about is obviously Gene is really, he tells this police officer, these gunshots, they sounded muffled, like a suppressor was used.
Like, that's a really weird, like, thing to say, you know? And he's like, yeah, and I know somebody that has a suppressor up here. And I just held the gun. And I have a picture of it. Here you go. What? Yeah, and then he starts talking about all, like, about drugs and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, yeah, I mean, it's so loud around here. We hear gunshots all the time, you know? And then you have Joe Richardson saying, it's so quiet, you can hear a pin drop up here. What? Those are just the most complete opposite statements you could ever hear. And here, they were both living, like, literally up here. Their streets are like this, you know, one street away. And both had been living up there for about the same amount of time. But clearly you got one guy that's actually living up there. But you got Joe Richardson that, I don't even know. Yeah, he told you he bought a house for $7,000 because it was cheaper to do whatever he was doing. He was going back and forth from, you know, New York to here because of getting a job with the Pittsburgh airport, you know, blah, 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 blah. And that, you know, but it's such a quiet neighborhood, you know, you got kids walking around and you can just, like, hear, like, a pin drop. And then he's talking about, the other guy's talking about Uzis, and it's not like somebody left an Uzi up here, and we hear gunshots all the time. You know, it's just wild. I'm surprised they were able to take this to court with what little evidence they had. Well, what's going to even be, you know, they arrested Sheldon within 24 hours of the homicide. So that's what this is going to be breaking down, is what did they really have before they arrested Sheldon? They had a big fucking nothing. But yeah. Dude has a suppressor. Law enforcement asks questions. Then, yeah, they ask all these questions about the make and model of the vehicles that they drive, all of this stuff. And then they never interview the guy. And that came up in court. And it was just so simple as, like, did you have other leads? So nobody mentioned girls from Cleveland. That's what gets brought up. Girls from Cleveland setting up Pew. Nobody said that to you? Yeah, that was said to us. Did you follow that up? Did you ever find out who these girls from Cleveland were? No. That's what he says on the stand. And he's like, no more further questions. That wasn't the only thing that they didn't follow up on, and you missed a huge, and that's going to come up down the road here in these episodes. Girls from Cleveland? Come on, bro. That's like, woo. What about interviewing the guy with the suppressor, with the gun that you have? That the serial number on it doesn't go back to the fucking guy that has the gun, who's a felon. How about any of that shit? The fuck out of here. Coming up, Sunset Secrets 3, it's lit as a tit. And again, this is not about anybody being guilty. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody. I am simply showing that Sheldon Jeter Jr. did not do this, and he sure as shit did not have a defense that was capable of doing a damn thing other than, well, everything looks like maybe you got paid off to not defend the guy. But this is not what this is not how things are supposed to be. You want to be a lawyer, you take an oath, you have somebody's life in your hands, and this is the job you do. Shame on you. You should be disbarred. Them's the facts. Until next time, peace out. Late.